During my wedding, my sister had a meltdown saying, "I want to be the bride." My parents then tried to snatch the dress from my hand saying, "Let her wear it, it will make her feel better." But in that moment they ripped my dress apart, and that's when my sister lost it and fractured me in a fight. My parents tried to cool her down and demanded me not to call the cops, it'll ruin her life. My sister smirked and said, "Well, if I can't wear it then you can't either." And left me there. I tried to call for my fiancé, but they locked the door saying, "He left and your sister is willing to sit next to him now." All because my in-laws said I would be gifted an apartment. But they had no idea what I would do next when. The morning of my wedding started like something out of a fairy tale. I woke up at 6 a.m. in the bridal suite of the Riverside Hotel, sunlight streaming through gauze curtains, my custom Vera Wang dress hanging like a cloud of dreams near the window. My bridesmaids, college friends who'd flown in from 3 different states, were buzzing around with mimosas and excited chatter. Everything felt perfect. Everything felt right. I was marrying Derek Morrison, the man I'd loved for 4 years, and our future looked golden. My family was staying in rooms down the hall. My parents, Richard and Susan Patterson, had insisted on being close by to help with any last-minute preparations. My younger sister Brooklyn, 23 to my 28, had her own room because, as my mother explained, she needs her space to get ready too. I should have recognized the warning signs then, but I was too caught up in my own happiness to see the storm gathering. Brooklyn had always been the volatile one. Growing up, she'd throw tantrums when things didn't go her way, screaming until her face turned purple and something inevitably broke. My parents always gave in, always soothed her, always sacrificed whatever was necessary to calm the tempest. I learned early to stay quiet, to not rock the boat, to accept being second place because it kept the peace. But this was my day. For once, this was supposed to be about me. The ceremony was scheduled for 2 p.m. At 11:30, my mother knocked on the suite door, and I opened it with a smile, expecting her to be misty-eyed and sentimental. Instead, her face was tight with stress. Behind her stood Brooklyn, wearing a bridesmaid dress that she'd complained about for months, her eyes red and swollen. "Honey, we need to talk," Mom said, pushing past me into the room. My bridesmaids exchanged confused glances but continued with their makeup applications, pretending not to eavesdrop. "What's wrong?" I asked, my stomach already knotting with dread. Brooklyn burst into tears, loud and theatrical. "This isn't fair. Why does she get everything? Why does she get the perfect wedding and the perfect guy and the perfect life?" I stared at her, genuinely baffled. "Brooklyn, you'll have your own wedding someday. Today is. I want to be the bride." She shrieked, her voice hitting a pitch that made everyone in the room freeze. "I'm tired of watching you get everything handed to you. You don't deserve this." My mother's hand flew up. "Brooklyn, sweetheart, calm down. You're working yourself up." "Mom, what is happening right now?" I demanded, my voice shaking. "Can we handle this later? I need to start getting ready." My father appeared in the doorway, his face grim. Richard Patterson, a man who'd built his accounting firm from scratch, who prided himself on logic and reason, looked at me like I was the problem. "Vanessa, your sister is having a difficult time. She's feeling overlooked. Can't you be compassionate?" Compassionate. The word landed like a slap. I'd been compassionate my entire life, shrinking myself so Brooklyn could shine brighter. "Dad, I understand she's upset, but this is my wedding day. Can we please discuss this tomorrow?" I tried to keep my voice level, professional, like I was negotiating a business deal instead of defending my right to get married. Brooklyn's sobs intensified. She stumbled toward my dress, hanging pristine and perfect by the window. "It's so beautiful," she whimpered, reaching out to touch the delicate lace. "Why can't I have something this beautiful?" Alarm bells started ringing in my head. "Brooklyn, please step away from the dress." She didn't move. Instead, she turned to our parents with desperate, pleading eyes. "Let me wear it. Just for a few minutes. Let me see what it feels like." "Absolutely not," I said firmly, moving between her and the dress. "That's insane." My mother's expression shifted into something I'd seen 1,000 times before, the look that preceded her choosing Brooklyn over me. "Vanessa, would it really hurt to let her try it on? Just to make her feel better? It'll calm her down." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My bridesmaids had stopped pretending not to listen and were staring openly now, their faces reflecting my own shock. "Mom, no. This is my wedding dress. I haven't even put it on yet." The answer is absolutely not. My father stepped forward, his jaw set. "You're being selfish. Your sister is clearly struggling, and you can't spare 5 minutes to help her?" "I'm being selfish?" I could hear my voice rising, feel control slipping away. On my wedding day, I'm selfish for not wanting my sister to wear my dress? Brooklyn moved with surprising speed, lunging for the dress. I grabbed it first, pulling it off the hanger and clutching it against my chest. The three of them converged on me like a pack of wolves. Let her wear it, it will make her feel better. My mother shouted, actually trying to wrench the fabric from my hands. Give it to your sister. My father commanded, his fingers digging into my wrist. Brooklyn was screaming incoherently, grabbing at the delicate lace and tulle, pulling with all her strength. My bridesmaids rushed forward, trying to intervene, but my father blocked them with his body. Get your hands off that dress, I yelled, but it was too late. The sound of fabric tearing cut through the chaos like a gunshot. We all froze, staring in horror at the damage. The bodice was ripped nearly in half, delicate beading scattered across the carpet like tears. One sleeve hung by threads. The skirt had a massive gash running from waist to hem. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then Brooklyn's face transformed from shock to pure, uncontrolled rage. You ruined it. You ruined everything. Before I could process what was happening, she swung at me. Her fist connected with my jaw, snapping my head to the side. I stumbled backward, dropping the destroyed dress. She came at me again, and this time I tried to defend myself, raising my arms to block. We crashed into the vanity table, makeup and flowers exploding across the floor. Brooklyn, stop. My mother screamed, but she didn't try to pull her daughter off me. She just stood there, wringing her hands. My bridesmaids were shouting, trying to reach me, but my father held them back, yelling about everyone needing to calm down. Brooklyn grabbed a heavy glass vase and swung it at my head. I twisted away, but she caught my left arm. The bone snapped with a sound I'll never forget, a wet crack followed by pain so intense the world went white. I collapsed to the floor, cradling my arm, bile rising in my throat. Blood dripped from a cut on my forehead where something had struck me. Brooklyn stood over me, chest heaving, her bridesmaid dress splattered with my blood. Someone call 911. One of my bridesmaids, Sarah, was screaming into her phone. No. My father lunged forward, snatching the phone away. No police. Are you insane? Do you know what this will do to Brooklyn's future? I stared up at him through a haze of pain and disbelief. My arm was broken. I was bleeding. And he was worried about Brooklyn's future. My mother knelt beside me, but instead of comfort, her eyes held accusation. Vanessa, please? Don't call the cops. It'll ruin her life. This was an accident, just emotions running high. We can fix this. Fix this? I gasped, tears streaming down my face. She broke my arm. Look at me. Brooklyn's expression shifted then, from rage to something worse, smug satisfaction. A slow smile spread across her face as she looked down at my broken body and destroyed dress. Well, if I can't wear it, then you can't either. She stepped over me and walked out of the suite like she was leaving a restaurant after a pleasant meal, not a crime scene of her own making. I tried to crawl toward my phone, but my father kicked it away. You're not calling anyone. We're going to handle this as a family. Move. Sarah shoved past him and grabbed the phone, dialing again. My father tried to wrestle it away, but my other bridesmaids, Melissa and Kate, physically blocked him. I heard pounding on the door. Vanessa? What's going on in there? It was Derek's voice, my fiancé, my almost husband. Relief flooded through me. Derek. I tried to shout, but it came out as a broken sob. Help me. My mother rushed to the door, pressing her body against it. She's fine. Just wedding jitters. Give us a few minutes. Mom, move. I screamed, agony lancing through my arm as I tried to stand. That doesn't sound fine, Derek called back, trying to handle. Vanessa, I'm coming in. My father joined my mother at the door, both of them holding it shut while my fiancé pounded from the other side. The absurdity of it was almost laughable, if I wasn't sitting in a pool of my own blood with a broken arm and a ruined wedding. He left. My mother suddenly shouted through the door, her voice taking on a manic edge. Derek, you need to go. There's been a situation and Vanessa needs time. What are you talking about? I could hear the panic in Derek's voice. Let me in right now. My father added his weight to the door. Your sister is willing to sit next to him now. She'll be the bride today instead. The words were so delusional, so detached from reality, that I wondered if I was hallucinating from the pain. What is wrong with you people? Derek was shouting now, his voice joined by others, his groomsmen, probably, or hotel staff. I'm calling the police. My mother's face went pale. She looked at my father, then at me, sprawled on the floor in a pool of silk and blood, my broken arm twisted at an unnatural angle. Some last vestige of maternal instinct must have flickered because she finally said, "Richard, maybe we should." "No police," he roared. "Do you want your daughter arrested? Do you want her charged with assault? Think about her career, her future." "I'm thinking about all our futures," Mom whispered, but she didn't move from the door. Sarah crouched beside me, phone pressed to her ear. "Yes, we need an ambulance and police at the Riverside Hotel, bridal suite on the 3rd floor. A woman has been assaulted, possible fractured arm and head injury. Her family is preventing her from leaving and blocking others from entering." Everything happened fast after that. The hotel manager arrived with security. Derek threatened to break down the door and probably would have if security hadn't convinced my parents to step aside. The paramedics came rushing in, professional and efficient, immediately stabilizing my arm and checking for other injuries. Derek burst through the door the moment it opened, going white when he saw me. "Oh my God. Vanessa? Baby, what happened?" Through my tears and shock, I told him everything. His face cycled through disbelief, fury, and a kind of protective rage I'd never seen before. His groomsmen had to physically restrain him from going after my father. The police arrived next, asking questions, taking statements from my bridesmaids who'd witnessed everything. My parents stood in the corner, my mother crying quietly, my father stone-faced and defiant. When the officers asked where Brooklyn was, my parents refused to answer. "She's probably in her room," I managed to say through gritted teeth as the paramedics prepared to move me. "Room 312. They found her there, calmly repacking her suitcase like nothing had happened. She was arrested on the spot for assault causing bodily harm. I later learned she actually laughed when they read her rights, like it was all some elaborate joke. At the hospital, the full extent of my injuries became clear: fractured radius and ulna in my left forearm requiring surgery, a concussion, lacerations on my face and hands, and severe bruising across my ribs where Brooklyn had kicked me while I was down, something I hadn't even remembered happening until the doctors pointed it out. Derek never left my side. His family descended on the hospital like an army, his mother Catherine crying when she saw me, his father James immediately calling their family lawyer. My wedding dress, my beautiful custom dress that had taken 8 months to create, sat in an evidence bag somewhere, destroyed beyond repair. The police detective assigned to the case, a weary woman named Detective Lisa Morrison, was sympathetic but direct. "Your sister is being charged with assault causing bodily harm and destruction of property. Your parents could potentially face charges as well for unlawful confinement and obstruction. But I need to know, do you want to press charges?" I looked at Derek, then at his parents, then at the evidence photos the detective had shown me. I looked like I'd been in a car accident. My face was unrecognizable beneath the swelling and bruises. "Yes," I said. "I want to press charges against all of them." My phone had been ringing nonstop, my parents calling, my aunts and uncles, family friends, all asking what happened, why the wedding was cancelled, whether the rumors they'd heard were true. I turned it off and handed it to Derek. "I can't deal with this right now." The news spread through our social circle like wildfire. By evening, the story was everywhere, sanitized versions on social media, wilder speculation in group chats. Someone had leaked photos of the destroyed bridal suite to Instagram before hotel management could stop them. The torn dress, the blood on the carpet, the shattered vase, all immortalized for the world to see. Brooklyn's arrest made the local news. Woman arrested after allegedly assaulting sister on wedding day. The story was salacious enough to get picked up by regional outlets. My parents hired a criminal defense attorney for Brooklyn, a shark named Marcus Goldstein, who immediately started spinning the narrative: mental health crisis, family misunderstanding, blown out of proportion. I was discharged from the hospital 3 days later with my arm in a cast, pain medication that made me foggy, and a follow-up appointment with an orthopedic surgeon. Derek took me to his apartment instead of mine because he didn't trust that my parents wouldn't show up. His mother had already prepared the guest room, but I ended up sleeping in Derek's bed anyway, needing his presence to feel safe. The wedding was officially postponed. We'd lost all our deposits: venue, catering, photographer, DJ. Our guests, many of whom had already traveled to the city, were confused and disappointed. Derek's parents insisted on handling all the financial fallout, refusing to let us worry about money while I recovered. My parents showed up at Derek's apartment building 4 days after the incident. The doorman called up before letting them enter, and Derek answered the intercom with a coldness I'd never heard from him before. "They're not welcome here." "Please," my mother's tinny voice came through the speaker. "We just want to talk to Vanessa." "To explain." "Explain what?" Derek snapped. "Explain how you held her hostage while her sister broke her arm? Explain how you've enabled Brooklyn's psychotic behavior for her entire life?" "No." You're not coming up. Leave, or I'll call building security. We're her parents. You're monsters, Derek said flatly and disconnected the call. I heard them shouting in the lobby, demanding access, until security escorted them out. My mother sent a barrage of text messages after that, each one more manipulative than the last. Your sister is having a breakdown in jail. She needs psychiatric help, not prison. You're tearing this family apart over a misunderstanding. The dress can be fixed. Your arm will heal. Why are you doing this? Derek's family is poisoning you against us. They just want the apartment your in-laws promised you. That last message made me laugh bitterly. The apartment. Of course that's what they thought this was about. Derek's parents, Catherine and James Morrison, had mentioned during a family dinner 6 months ago that they owned a rental property in a nice part of town and would be giving it to us as a wedding present. It was a generous gift, certainly, but it wasn't some mansion or penthouse, just a decent 2-bedroom in a good school district. Derek and I had been saving for a down payment on a house anyway, so while we were grateful, it wasn't life-changing money. But apparently, Brooklyn had fixated on that apartment. According to my Aunt Carol, who'd maintained contact with me despite the family drama, Brooklyn had been seething about it for months. She'd complained at family gatherings that I was getting everything, that Derek's rich family was giving me things she'd never have, that it wasn't fair I was marrying up while she was single. The jealousy had been building like pressure in a sealed container, and my wedding day was when it finally exploded. Brooklyn's lawyer managed to get her bail after she spent a week in county lockup. The judge set strict conditions: no contact with me, mandatory psychiatric evaluation, surrendering her passport. My parents paid the bond, probably emptying their savings to do it. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for 6 weeks out, which gave me time to physically heal even if emotionally I was a wreck. I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Patricia Chen, who specialized in family trauma. She was the one who helped me understand that what I'd experienced wasn't just a bad day, it was the culmination of a lifetime of emotional abuse and neglect. Your family trained you to accept being treated as secondary, Dr. Chen explained during one session. They conditioned you to believe that keeping the peace meant sacrificing your own needs. What happened at your wedding was horrifying, but it wasn't aberrant behavior for them. It was just the most extreme example of a pattern. She was right. I started remembering other incidents, birthdays where my party got cancelled because Brooklyn threw a tantrum about not being the center of attention, my high school graduation dinner that turned into a celebration of Brooklyn's acceptance to college, the time I'd gotten promoted at work but couldn't tell the family about it because Brooklyn had just been fired and my parents said it would upset her. Derek proposed we elope. Just us, a courthouse, and 2 witnesses. Start fresh without the drama and trauma. I was tempted, God knows I was tempted. But something in me rebelled against that idea. Why should Brooklyn get to steal my wedding? Why should her violence dictate my choices? I want a real wedding, I told Derek one night as we lay in bed, my cast propped on a pillow between us. I want the dress and the flowers and the celebration. I want to prove that she didn't win. Derek kissed my forehead gently. Then that's what we'll do. But Vanessa, your family, won't be invited, I finished. None of them. Not my parents, not Brooklyn obviously, not the aunts and uncles who are making excuses for her. We'll have a small wedding with people who actually love and support us. I like the sound of that, he murmured. The legal proceedings moved forward like a slow-motion train wreck. Brooklyn pleaded not guilty, claiming self-defense. She said I'd attacked her first, that she'd only been defending herself. Her lawyer presented her as a victim of my jealousy and aggression. The story was ludicrous given the evidence, but they ran with it anyway. My lawyer, Jennifer Park, was a tenacious woman in her 40s who took one look at the evidence photos and said, "This is going to trial, and we're going to win. But you need to prepare yourself for how ugly this will get. Your family is going to say terrible things about you." She wasn't wrong. My parents gave statements supporting Brooklyn's version of events, claiming I'd always been jealous of my sister, that I'd instigated the fight, that my injuries were exaggerated. My mother actually testified at a pretrial hearing that I'd always been dramatic and was making this bigger than it needed to be for attention. The betrayal was absolute and devastating. My friends rallied around me. Sarah, Melissa, and Kate all gave statements to police corroborating my account. They'd witnessed everything, and their testimony was damning for Brooklyn's defense. Derek's family enveloped me in a warmth I'd never experienced, his mother treating me like the daughter she'd never had, his father offering both legal and financial support. But the person who surprised me most was Derek's older brother, Marcus Morrison, a corporate lawyer who normally worked in mergers and acquisitions. He pulled me aside one afternoon at their parents' house and said, "I've been doing some digging. Would you like to know what I found about your sister?" I braced myself. What? Brooklyn has a sealed juvenile record. 3 incidents of assault between ages 14 and 17, all against other girls. Your parents managed to keep it quiet, probably through expensive lawyers and settlements. There's also a restraining order from a college roommate, and she was expelled from 2 universities for physical altercations. My blood ran cold. How did I not know any of this? Because your parents protected her. They hid it, paid people off, moved her to different schools. They've been enabling her violent behavior for over a decade. I felt sick. How many other people had Brooklyn hurt? How many times had my parents covered for her, paid settlements, made problems disappear? There's more, Marcus said grimly. I found evidence that your parents have been financially supporting Brooklyn extensively, paying her rent, her car payments, her credit card bills. She's $30,000 in debt, mostly shopping and vacations, all of which your parents have been quietly covering. The pieces were starting to click together. The apartment that Catherine and James were giving Derek and me, Brooklyn had probably seen it as money that should be going to her instead. In her twisted logic, my wedding and our gift weren't just about me being happy, they represented resources being diverted away from her. Can we use this information? I asked Marcus. In a civil suit, absolutely. In the criminal case, probably not directly, but it establishes a pattern of behavior that could be relevant. With your permission, I'd like to share this with your criminal attorney. I nodded, numb with the weight of these revelations. The trial was scheduled for 3 months after the incident. In that time, I had surgery to properly set the bones in my arm, went through weeks of physical therapy, and started the process of legally changing my emergency contacts and removing my parents from my medical proxy and financial accounts. I also started planning a new wedding, smaller and more intimate. We'd get married in 6 months at a botanical garden, just 30 close friends and Derek's family. I ordered a new dress, simpler than the Vera Wang but beautiful in its own right. This wedding would be about love and celebration, not about proving anything to anyone. The weeks leading up to the trial were a special kind of torture. Brooklyn's lawyer launched a media campaign, giving interviews to local news stations about how his client was the real victim of a vindictive sister. They painted a picture of me as someone obsessed with material possessions and status, willing to destroy my own sister over what they called an emotional outburst. What made it worse was watching people I'd known for years start to believe the narrative. Former high school classmates commented on news articles, saying things like Vanessa always was kind of cold or I remember Brooklyn being the sweet one. People who hadn't spoken to me in a decade suddenly felt qualified to analyze my character based on carefully edited sound bites. Derek's social media was flooded with messages from strangers, some supportive but many cruel. Anonymous accounts sent him messages suggesting he'd dodged a bullet, that I was clearly unstable, that he should run while he still could. He deleted all his social media accounts after the 3rd day, but the damage was done. We both felt violated in a way that went beyond the physical assault. Jennifer Park warned me this would happen. Public opinion isn't a court of law, she said during one of our preparation meetings. They're going to try to win in the media because they know they can't win on facts. Don't read the comments. Don't engage. Let the evidence speak for itself. I tried to follow her advice, but it was impossible to completely insulate myself. My work colleagues whispered when I walked by. A few friends from college stopped responding to my messages, either uncomfortable with the drama or quietly siding with my family's version of events. I felt like I was being erased, replaced by this caricature of a bridezilla monster that Brooklyn's defense team had constructed. The night before the trial started, I couldn't sleep. Derek held me while I cried, purging months of accumulated stress and fear. What if they don't believe me? I whispered. What if the jury thinks I'm lying? They have the evidence, he reminded me gently. They have witness testimony. They have the security footage. The truth is on your side, Vanessa. You just have to trust the system to work. I wanted to believe him, but trust felt like a luxury I could no longer afford. The trial itself was brutal. Brooklyn took the stand and lied with breathtaking confidence, spinning a tale about how I'd attacked her in a jealous rage, how she'd only defended herself. Her lawyer painted me as a spoiled, materialistic woman who couldn't stand that my younger sister might upstage me. Then the prosecution played the 911 call. Sarah's terrified voice, a woman has been assaulted, possible fractured arm and head injury. Her family is preventing her from leaving and blocking others from entering. They showed the photographs of the destroyed bridal suite, the torn dress, the blood. They called my bridesmaids as witnesses, who each described what they'd seen: Brooklyn's unprovoked attack, my parents' attempts to stop anyone from calling for help, my father kicking my phone away from me while I lay injured on the floor. The hotel security footage was the nail in the coffin. It showed Brooklyn leaving the suite calmly, no visible injuries, while paramedics rushed in minutes later to treat me. It showed my parents blocking the door while Derek and hotel staff demanded entry. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Brooklyn was sentenced to 18 months in jail, followed by 3 years probation, mandatory anger management, and psychiatric treatment. My parents were charged with unlawful confinement and obstruction of justice. They pleaded guilty and received suspended sentences with community service and substantial fines. But I wasn't done. Marcus had been building a civil case, and we filed suit against both Brooklyn and my parents for assault, emotional distress, and the cost of the ruined wedding. The dollar amount was significant, not just the actual wedding expenses, but pain and suffering, lost wages from the time I'd taken off work to recover, future therapy costs. My parents' lawyer tried to settle out of court, offering $20,000. We countered with $250,000. They claimed they didn't have that kind of money. Marcus's investigation suggested otherwise. They'd remortgaged their house to pay for Brooklyn's legal defense and bail, but they still had substantial retirement savings and other assets. We went to trial again, this time civil court. The jury awarded me $340,000 in damages. My parents would have to liquidate the retirement accounts. Brooklyn, who had no assets, would have a judgment hanging over her for the rest of her life, garnishing any wages she ever earned. It felt like justice, but it felt hollow too. I'd won, but I'd also lost my entire family in the process. The new wedding was beautiful. We married on a perfect June afternoon, 6 months after the original date, in a garden filled with roses and honeysuckle. My dress was ivory silk, simple and elegant, and I wore my cast, now just a removable brace, like a badge of honor. Sarah was my maid of honor again, and this time she got to fulfill her duties without trauma. Derek cried when he saw me walking down the aisle. His vows were about strength and resilience and building something new from the ashes of what had been destroyed. My Aunt Carol attended, the only member of my biological family brave enough to defy my parents. She hugged me before the ceremony and whispered, "I'm so proud of you. You did the right thing." During the reception, Catherine Morrison stood up to give a toast. When Derek first brought Vanessa home to meet us, I saw a young woman who was kind, intelligent, and generous. What I didn't see, but came to learn, was that she's also one of the strongest people I've ever met. Vanessa, you've shown grace under circumstances that would have broken most people. You refused to be a victim. You refused to let cruelty win. We're honored to welcome you into our family, and I promise you that with us, you will always be cherished, always be protected, and always be enough. I cried through the entire speech. Derek's whole family had become mine, filling the void left by the family I'd been born into. We honeymooned in Greece, 2 weeks of sunshine and ancient ruins and slowly learning how to relax again. Derek never pushed me to talk about the trauma, but he was always there when I needed to process it. We'd sit on our hotel balcony overlooking the Aegean, and I'd work through my feelings while he held my hand. "Do you think I'm a bad person for what I did to them?" I asked one night. "What you did was hold people accountable for their actions," Derek said firmly. "You protected yourself and potentially protected future victims. Brooklyn has a pattern of violence. Your parents have a pattern of enabling it. You stopped that pattern. It doesn't feel like winning. Because you're not a cruel person. You're someone who had to make hard choices to survive and to heal. That's different." When we returned home, we moved into the apartment Catherine and James had given us. It was freshly painted, furnished with a mix of their contributions and our own pieces. It felt like a fresh start, a space untainted by the past. I changed my phone number and email address, blocking any avenue my parents might use to contact me. I declined messages from relatives trying to broker reconciliation, ignored guilt-tripping emails about family forgiveness and moving on. Dr. Chen helped me understand that estrangement wasn't failure, it was self-preservation. Brooklyn served 14 months before being released on parole. I received notification of her release as required by the victim notification system. The knowledge that she was out in the world somewhere made me anxious, but the restraining order was ironclad. If she came within 500 feet of me, Derek, or our home, she'd go straight back to jail. My parents never apologized. They sent letters through their lawyer, focusing entirely on their own pain and embarrassment, painting themselves as victims of my vindictiveness. My father's letter was particularly galling. "You've destroyed this family over your pride and stubbornness. A real daughter would have shown mercy and understanding." I threw those letters away without reading more than the first few lines. A year after the wedding that wasn't, and 6 months after the wedding that was, I was thriving. My arm had healed completely, though I'd always have a small scar. My career was flourishing. I'd been promoted to senior project manager at the tech company where I worked. Derek and I had started talking about kids, about the future we wanted to build. One afternoon, I ran into my mother at a grocery store. It was the first time I'd seen her in person since the trial. She looked older, grayer, smaller somehow. She saw me at the same moment I saw her, and for a few seconds we just stared at each other across the produce section. She opened her mouth to speak, and I turned my cart around and walked away. I heard her call my name once, broken and desperate, but I didn't look back. There was nothing left to say. That evening, I told Derek about the encounter. He wrapped me in his arms and asked if I was okay. "Yeah," I said, and realized I meant it. "I actually am." She looked so diminished, and I thought I'd feel satisfied or vindicated, but I just felt nothing. She's a stranger who made her choices, and I've made mine. "That's healthy," he said. "That's healing." We hosted Thanksgiving that year, our first holiday as a married couple. Derek's family filled our apartment with laughter and warmth and the smell of Catherine's famous apple pie. Sarah and her new boyfriend joined us, along with Melissa and Kate. We went around the table sharing what we were grateful for. When it came to my turn, I looked around at the faces of people who'd chosen to love and support me. "I'm grateful for second chances," I said. "I'm grateful for people who show up. I'm grateful that I had the strength to walk away from toxicity and the wisdom to recognize love when it found me." Derek squeezed my hand under the table. My Aunt Carol told me later that Brooklyn had moved to another state, working in retail and living in a small apartment. My parents had downsized to a condo after selling their house to pay the civil judgment. They'd become pariahs in their social circle, the story of what happened too scandalous to ignore or excuse. I felt a twinge of something, not quite pity, not quite satisfaction. Maybe just the acknowledgement that actions have consequences, and sometimes those consequences are permanent. The apartment Catherine and James gave us became more than just a place to live. It was proof that family isn't always about blood. It's about people who see you, value you, protect you. It's about building something new when the old foundation cracks beyond repair. Sometimes I still have nightmares about that day, the sound of fabric tearing, the crack of my bone breaking, my sister's cold smile as she looked down at my broken body. But those nightmares come less frequently now, and when I wake from them, Derek is there, reminding me that I'm safe, I'm loved, and I survived. I survived, and more than that, I learned who I was without the weight of my family's dysfunction pressing down on me. I learned that I was strong enough to stand alone, smart enough to recognize manipulation, and worthy of genuine love and respect. Brooklyn wanted to be the bride that day. She wanted the attention, the celebration, the material reward she thought I didn't deserve. Instead, what she got was a criminal record, a destroyed relationship with her only sibling, and a lifetime of consequences for a few hours of uncontrolled violence. Meanwhile, I got my wedding, the real one, the one that mattered. I got a partner who stood by me through the worst experience of my life. I got a new family who welcomed me with open arms. I got my self-respect back. In the end, the apartment was just an apartment. The real gift was learning that I deserved better than what I'd been accepting my entire life. The real gift was finding the courage to demand that better treatment, to enforce boundaries, to walk away from people who would never change. My parents thought I ruined the family by pressing charges. They thought I was vindictive, cruel, unforgiving. But they had it backward. The family was already ruined, broken long before that wedding day. I just finally admitted what had always been true, that some things can't be fixed, some people won't change, and sometimes the bravest thing you can do is save yourself. I look at my life now, our cozy apartment, Derek's coffee mug next to mine on the counter, plans for a weekend trip to visit Catherine and James, Sarah's text about meeting for brunch, and I know I made the right choices. Every single one of them. Brooklyn wanted to destroy my wedding, and in a way, she did. But from those ashes, I built something better, a life where I'm valued, protected, and free. She took one day from me, but I took back every day after that. And that's the real revenge, not the criminal charges or the civil judgment or the public humiliation, though all of that was necessary. The real revenge is happiness. The real revenge is thriving. The real revenge is building a beautiful life while the people who tried to destroy you face the consequences of their choices. I was asked to be a victim, to sacrifice myself once again for Brooklyn's comfort and my parents' convenience. Instead, I chose to be a survivor. I chose accountability. I chose myself. And I'd make that choice again, every single time.